Here we go again. The world watches as two of North America's closest allies find themselves at odds, their long-standing partnership suddenly under threat. In August 2025, President Trump escalated trade tensions by slapping a staggering 35% tariff on Canadian steel imports. The move sent shockwaves through boardrooms and factory floors on both sides of the border, reigniting old debates about protectionism and economic nationalism. Canada's response was swift. Prime Minister Mark Carney announced a blockade on steel imports from other countries, determined not to become the world's dumping ground. The message was clear. Canada would not stand by as its industries were threatened. This tit-for-tat has plunged the two neighbors into their most serious trade conflict in decades. Headlines blared, markets trembled, and uncertainty rippled through every sector tied to steel. The US and Canada, once seamless economic partners, now face choked supply chains and uncertainty. Factories that once hummed with cross-border cooperation now sit idle, waiting for clarity that may never come. The stakes are high. Millions of jobs, entire communities, and the very foundation of North American industry hang in the balance. Families worry about their futures, and towns built on steel brace for impact. On one side, the US bets on tariffs to revive domestic industries, hoping to restore lost jobs and reclaim economic strength. The promise? A new era of American manufacturing dominance. On the other, Canada fights to shield its key sectors from what it sees as reckless protectionism. For Canadian workers and businesses, the struggle is about survival and sovereignty. This isn't just policy, it's a high-stakes drama with real consequences for millions. As the first shots are fired in this economic battle, the world waits to see who will blink first and what the fallout will mean for the future of both nations. Why the sudden escalation? The world is asking, and the answer lies in a doctrine that's reshaping global trade. The America First approach is not just a slogan, it's a fundamental shift in how the US sees its place in the world economy. President Trump's logic is straightforward. Make foreign goods more expensive, push companies to buy American, and spark a revival of US industry. The administration believes that by raising barriers, American factories will roar back to life, creating jobs and boosting national pride. Since March 2025, tariffs on steel and aluminum have jumped from 25% to 35%. But it doesn't stop there. New levies now target semiconductors and pharmaceuticals, two industries seen as vital for national security and economic independence. The administration's vision is clear: a self-sufficient America, shielded from foreign competition by a wall of tariffs. The goal is to reduce reliance on imports and keep critical supply chains within US borders. But many economists warn, this approach is a blunt instrument. They argue that tariffs can have unintended consequences, disrupting the delicate balance of global trade and risking retaliation from other nations. Disrupting supply chains doesn't create new factories overnight. It raises costs for manufacturers and consumers alike. Companies may struggle to adapt, and everyday Americans could feel the pinch at the checkout counter. Higher prices and job losses could follow, undermining the very workers tariffs are meant to protect. Some fear that instead of a manufacturing boom, the result could be layoffs and shuttered plants. The dream of an American manufacturing renaissance could easily become a nightmare of stagnation and strained alliances. International partners may look elsewhere, and long-standing relationships could fray under the pressure. The question remains, will this wall of tariffs truly protect the country, or will it simply isolate it from the global economy, leaving American businesses and workers more vulnerable in the long run? The world is watching, and so are the millions whose livelihoods are at stake. As the US doubles down on protectionism, the consequences will ripple far beyond its borders, shaping the future of work, trade, and prosperity for years to come. Canada had to act fast. With the US market closed, global steel producers would flood Canada with cheap steel, threatening its industry. Prime Minister Carney's move to block certain steel imports was a calculated shield, not just retaliation. The goal protects cities like Hamilton and Sault Ste. Marie, where steel is the economic lifeblood. The United Steelworkers Union warned of panic and job losses. Nearly 12,000 jobs in Hamilton alone were at risk. Beyond steel, Canada rolled out support for other sectors hit by US tariffs, including $1.2 billion for the lumber industry. Where Canada can't prevent tariffs, it cushions the blow for its workers. It's a defensive posture, bracing for impact, determined to keep its economic engine running. The message: Canada won't be collateral damage in America's trade war. The fight is about survival, not just policy. Nowhere is the impact sharper than in the North American auto industry. For For decades, car manufacturing has been a cross-border dance. Engines from Ontario, assembly in Michigan, parts from Mexico. Trump's steel tariffs threaten to shatter this choreography. Ford's Windsor engine plant, a local economic anchor, now faces skyrocketing steel costs. The uncertainty is real. Higher costs could mean layoffs, pricier cars, or even production moving elsewhere. Workers and communities are left in limbo, fearing for their future. The flaw in nationalistic tariffs is clear. You can't punish one link in the chain without hurting the whole. A tariff on Canadian steel is a problem for American workers and consumers too. The industry's greatest strength, its integration, has become its greatest vulnerability. In this new era of trade hostility, everyone pays the price. Beyond the headlines and political soundbites, the real story is written on the faces of workers, men and women whose lives are shaped by forces far beyond their control. Their expressions tell of sleepless nights, of worry for their families, and of pride in the work they do, even as that work becomes more uncertain. For people like Kristen Lawton, a fourth-generation Ford worker in Windsor, tariffs threaten not just jobs, but family legacies built over decades. The factory isn't just a workplace, it's a symbol of stability, a place where generations have found purpose and belonging. Now, that sense of security is slipping away. Layoffs have already hit Canada's auto and metal sectors, each one a personal tragedy that ripples through entire communities. Every lost job means a family forced to make impossible choices, and a town that grows a little quieter. Steelworkers in Hamilton see the tariffs as an existential threat, not just a temporary setback. For many, the mill is the heart of the city, a source of identity and pride. The fear is that once these jobs are gone, they may never return. The anxiety is palpable. These are communities built on industry, now facing an uncertain future. Local businesses, schools, and families all feel the strain as the foundation of their towns is shaken. Ironically, American workers feel the same fear. On both sides of the border, families worry about layoffs, shrinking paychecks, and the loss of dignity that comes with unemployment. Tariffs meant to protect jobs are uniting workers on both sides of the border in shared vulnerability. Instead of dividing, these policies have created a common struggle as workers realize their fates are intertwined. The divide is political, but the pain is universal. No matter which flag they stand under, workers are left to bear the consequences of decisions made far from the factory floor. The human cost is measured in lost paychecks, broken plans, and a sense of betrayal by leaders who promise prosperity. Dreams are put on hold, and futures are rewritten in uncertainty. In this trade war, it's the workers who lose the most. Factories close, communities hollow out, and the sense of hope that once filled these towns fades with every shuttered plant. Their stories of resilience, loss, and hope are the true cost of economic conflict. These are the voices that deserve to be heard. The economic shockwaves go far beyond factories. Canada's manufacturing sector, employing 1.7 million people, is deeply tied to U.S. exports, worth $356 billion in 2024. Tariffs on steel, aluminum, and auto parts hit at the heart of this relationship. The result? Immediate pain for Canadian industries, layoffs, and lost investment. But the U.S. isn't immune. Over half its imported aluminum and a quarter of its steel come from Canada. Making these materials pricier hurts American manufacturers and consumers, fueling inflation. Both countries suffer. Canada from lost demand, the U.S. from higher costs. There's no clean victory, just mutual damage. The destinies of these economies are intertwined. A blow to one wounds the other. In this trade war, everyone loses. His U.S.-Canada dispute is just one front in a global trade upheaval. The Trump administration's tariffs have rattled partners worldwide: Brazil, the EU, South Korea, Mexico, and more. Countries scramble for deals or face punishing levies, forcing companies to rethink supply chains. The result? Global uncertainty, stalled investment, and rising costs. The old consensus on free trade is crumbling, replaced by a transactional, confrontational approach. For businesses, it's a world suddenly more fragmented and expensive. Canada's predicament is part of a broader trend. No country is immune. The era of stable, rules-based trade is on hold. The world is learning. In a tariff war, chaos is the only certainty. Leaders on both sides are selling their strategies hard. In the US, Trump frames tariffs as a fight for the American worker, a show of strength. In Canada, public opinion has hardened. Most want Prime Minister Carney to stand firm. Both leaders are boxed in by their own supporters, leaving little room for compromise. Each side sees itself as the victim, the other as the aggressor. The justifications are mirror images, each claims rationality, each blames the other. This deep division makes resolution nearly impossible. The political battle lines are drawn, and neither side is backing down. What's next for workers caught in the crossfire? The outlook is grim: instability, fewer jobs, and the constant threat of layoffs. Companies hesitate to invest, unsure if the rules will change again. Higher costs will likely be passed to consumers, depressing sales and triggering more cuts. The best hope is a negotiated truce, but political realities make that unlikely for now. The more probable future, a prolonged period of strained trade with workers paying the price. The livelihoods of entire communities hang in the balance. The people these policies claim to protect are the ones most at risk. Unless cooperation returns, the road ahead is paved with anxiety and hardship.